Okay, so starting from the beginning,
Yes.
this world is divided into 8 layers, 2 of which, the last two, 7 and 8, are man-made. So from the bottom up, we have the first layer, which is the void.
Nothing
It
can exist
serves,
there.
yeah, it's nothing. It's the void. You know, you fall off the end, you're falling into the void, you're falling into death, basically. Second layer is the end. You know, default Minecraft end.
Floating islands and stuff.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And they just float above the first layer of the void. Third layer is the nether. You know the nether. Fourth layer is the
Moth
overworld.
doesn't play Minecraft, just so you know.
I can't. No, I know where the leather. It's just like another. It's literally
It's
an
hell.
upside down world. I've been there before.
Yeah.
It's hell. It's just hell. Fourth layer, that's the overworld. That's the where all the grass stuff is. It's the default Minecraft world that you load into. Fifth layer is the Aether.
Hostile
Similar to the end.
paradise.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the end, but it's got a lot more life, a lot more heavenly themed. Yeah. Sixth is known as the Farlands, in name only, because they're not the actual Farlands, although they look kind of similar, but it's a separate dimension. The seventh, which is the first man-made layer, is the Haven, and that just that looks similar to the Aether. It's a bunch of floating islands and whatnot, but they're a lot more like interconnected and like mechanical as they were all built. It was created to kind of serve as, you know, as the name implies, a haven for everyone across the layers to kind of gather and exist together in harmony and peace. And yeah, okay. The eighth layer was created after the seventh, and it was created with the goal of amassing more power for the elites of the seventh layer. So they created the eighth as like a place to be like, oh, well, you know, we're from the eighth, so, you know, obviously we should have control over everything because we're at the pinnacle of the world. People from the eighth, a couple of them form a council, and through that council begin to take control over the rest of the layers. Most of it goes off without a hitch. At first, there's some fighting back, but after the sixth layer is destroyed, which keep in mind is the Farlands, and the fifth layer is like they seal themselves away to like avoid being destroyed. The resistance or whatever is quickly killed off and swept away.
From where?
Yeah.
No, from
So-
where? So they were swept away. Where were the resistance from?
Well, it was just like a general resistance from like all the layers.
Okay.
If they didn't
After
die, if they didn't die from being killed off by the sovereign, they were trapped on the fifth because they locked themselves away there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And everyone else just kind of shut up and went with the rule because, you know, sixth, eighth layers are a lot more powerful than the others. So this story takes place years and years after this has all happened. Each councilman oversees a distinct layer. So there are 5 of them. The first layer and the fifth layer and the eighth layer don't have anyone over them. So first layer is the void, so nobody needs to look at it. Fifth layer is locked away, so they can't oversee it if they wanted to. And the eighth layer is like ruled by the council as a whole. Right. So in the beginning, it was commonplace for the councilmen to kind of like, you know, go and fuck around in their domain. One such example was kicked off the story was when Nuppy, the former councilman over the fourth, went down and decided to just, you know, have some fun, start a cult on the fourth layer.
Video on the Nuppy YouTube channel, link in the description.
He touches down, and it's all fun and games at first, until, what's this? Somebody gets their spark? Whoa, hold up. What's a spark, you may ask? Well, a spark is the precursor to ascending, and what it means to ascend is to basically rise to the next level of power, right? It takes a certain kind of power level to reach the seventh layer. Usually, naturally, as you go up in the layers, you'll get a little stronger, but, you know, past a certain point, it doesn't really like amount to any real tangible difference. For example, like from the fifth up, everybody has a spark, and from the sixth up, you know, everybody has a flame that was fanned from that spark. And
from 5 to 6, everybody has the spark. 6, everybody has.
Yeah, and then 7 and 8 are just like brighter flames. The point is one of the fourth layers got a spark, which that being Haani.
Big fan of
Which
sporks.
is a big deal because, as far as they were aware, fourth players couldn't get sparks. You know, they couldn't ascend. So, you know, they're like, what the hell? We got to figure this out. So what happened is they quickly shut that experiment down. They locked everyone up. It was like, so basically they just put them in these pods. It's not that important. It's a little important for somebody else. But, you know, they locked us up and they decided from that point to start running experiments. In that experiment, he took 2 controls and he wanted to see what would happen if they just let us kind of do our thing, right? You know, under very controlled circumstances. Because usually, you know, they have people around, but they don't like actively monitor them.
So, like, imagine you
Enough.
have an environment with 50 variables running around. It's very hard to track cause and effect. So you isolate
Yes.
2 of the variables and let them do their own thing in an isolated environment. You can find out what makes those 2 tick, and that helps you on the larger scale.
Exactly.
That's what
So
they did for this duo series.
yeah. So Nuppy took Kiro, me, and James, Sumas, 617, links in bio.
Yes, in the description.
He set them off in a controlled environment and basically just kind of saw what happened. Eventually, another councilman, Makerplier, who had previously made a appearance in the first instance, Kiro and James found Makerplier digging around and quote unquote killed him.
Oh,
They didn't actually though, because they were nowhere near. But they attacked him and he kind of played along. But he was kind of pissed off by that. So what he did was he went a little crazy, started terrorizing them. Right. So obviously Nuppy's not a huge fan of this, but he's just kind of letting it happen to see where it goes. And throughout this, both Hero and James get their spark, which
oh,
basically just proves the theory that these people can spark, which means they can ascend. So they have a big fight eventually, and at the end of it all, Nuppy just is like, cool, or he pulls the 2 again. So he ended the experiment, kind of reset our progress and sent James and Kuro back to their pods. So after this, he's kind of like, okay, that's good and all. Definitely proves that they can get their spark, but can they truly ascend? So at this point, Maker had gotten into some shit with the rest of the council because he was fucking around in a place that wasn't his own. Nuppy was already kind of doing these experiments kind of on the side without anybody else's clearance. So they both got into some shit, but Maker actually ended up getting like booted from the council, right?
oh, Nuppy and who?
No, just Makerplier. Makerplier got removed from the council because he was directly fucking around with
He showed up out of nowhere while Nuppy's doing his.
yeah, basically.
Gotcha. You cross jurisdictions, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. Makerplier gets exiled to the 4th layer. When it comes time for another experiment with Nuppy, he decides that he's going to put all 3 of us who have sparked so far, Samaj, me, Hero, and Haani, since those are the 3 that have sparked before, and he intentionally puts them near Makerplier, not close enough to where it's like rings any bells, but close enough to where it's like okay, they can conceivably interact, right?
They're gonna come across each other. But that means that Haani, Kiro, and Samaj, all 3 of them, they do not remember anything. They just got reset.
No, they don't remember anything at all. They go about their lives. And now his current theory/goal is to see if 4th layer can not only spark but ascend. So throughout a bunch of stuff happens. They meet the monarch Potato, who oversees the project in Puppy's place. They meet Alara, who is currently dead.
Hey, spoilers.
Spoilers. Sorry, I skipped a step there. So they meet the monarch, who's overseeing, and the monarch is a 7th layer being who is much kinder to the group than the others have been. Until eventually, pride kind of gets the best of them, and they get killed by Makerfire, which is important later. That kind of leads to the group being divided. Which backing up again.
Oh my god.
Reason, look, I'm sorry. The whole reason that Makerfire is mad at the group is because they kind of raided his base, took his pets, not realizing that it was his.
I pulled a John Wick on him.
Essentially, yeah. So he they tried negotiating with him, didn't go well because obviously Kiro didn't want to give up the dog, and so Potato got killed, Monarch, right? So that leads the group to get divided. Haani goes over and joins Maker, and there's a huge battle. Haani dies, Kiro ascends, which huge deal, and then after all that, me and James went into hiding until Alara comes down, and he kind of serves as the new Monarch, overseeing the project.
It basically gives us all a slap on the wrist and says, "Stop fighting each other."
Yeah, essentially. And then so we all get back together, yay. Which, Haani, no, you didn't ascend when you went into that machine, never mind. Okay, so
Did I
I'll
what?
ignore that. I was gonna say, did you ascend when you went in the machine, but you didn't?
No, he just quote unquote fanned my flame and then gave me some cool gear.
Yeah.
And we did the same to James.
Yeah. So, all continues. We continue. We finally have a big fight with Maker in the end, damn near destroying the island. Actually, not damn near. We pretty much destroyed the island. It was bad. And from there, right when I think Maker was about to land the killing blow, or vice versa, one or the other, he got a call from Nuppy. The experiment was over, and we all got pulled into the 7th layer, and nobody could see anything except for me because I had ascended.
Okay. I kind of got this a bit. All right. Okay. Go back when the new monarch Laura gave all y'all a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, basically, he gave us a slap on the wrist, told us to work together again, and so we went and we faced off against Maker one final time in the end. The idea was take him somewhere where he didn't have any power. Anyways, so in the midst of that fight, right towards when one or the other was about to be dealt with, Nuppy gives him the word that the experiment's over, and he pulls all of us to the seventh layer, where he kind of gives us a spiel, and he's like, "This has been an experiment that's gone very well, and now that you, Kir0, have ascended, I'm keeping you here, basically, because he took us to the seventh." So he goes and he sends me in the seventh, and he locks up Haani and James again, kind of resets their progress. Except he does something wrong with Haani, which we'll get into later. Fast forward like 400 years. During that time, Kir0
Oh,
spends a lot of time. What's up?
I was like, oh shit! I was like, he did something wrong with Haani while he was trying to store him. Whatever that must have that. Then 400 years later, that must have brewed something into Haani.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get into it. But yeah, so 400 years pass. During that time, both Kir0 and Maker spend a lot of time in the fourth because they both kind of feel out of place in the upper layers at this point. Maker having been like used unknowingly in this experiment, Kir0 not really belonging in the seventh layer to start with.
So they're just having resentment towards.
Yeah, so they started off, they did have that natural resentment towards each other, but over time, after this, like I said, 400 years, they did gradually grow close to being each other's closest friends and only one they felt they could rely on. During this time, Maker remained on the council, and Kir0 was working to try to get everybody back together to have another quote unquote experiment that he was running, and the goal there was, at least the supposed goal, or whatever bullshit excuse he cooked up. But basically, he just wanted to get his friends back together and be able to live with them and not be have them all sitting in pods for the rest of the time.
Boy, did that started a whole lot of things.
That started a whole lot of shit.
Haani was like, yeah, F you all think you're gonna bring me back for? I can remember everything.
Exactly. How do you know about that?
No, I didn't know about that. I took a guess.
Yeah, no, he remembers everything.
Oh shoot.
Which is where all of the problems come from. Thank you, Haani.
Thank you.
Yay.
God damn.
No, it's not.
technically
It's
speaking,
not
it was
his fault.
Nuppy's fault.
It's only mostly my fault.
It's only most, but no. So yeah, we go back into the experiment, and we have everyone there. That is the current SMP.
And a lot's been happening.
A lot has been happening. Just to give a quick TLDR, we started off, Haani remembered everything. Everybody else did not, except for Kir0, because he was running everything. He was serving as the monarch of this world, which again picked up already. Monarch is basically the guy or girl that oversees a instance, which is what each of these experiments are called.
So this is the fourth instance.
Yeah.
Hence FISMP, fourth instance SMP.
Yeah, all seems to be going well at first. Then it comes out that Haani remembers. Then it comes out that Saros remembers.
He doesn't know who Saros is.
Sorry. Then it comes out that Potato remembers. Which
Also, Potato's live again.
What?
You didn't talk about Potato coming back to life.
Oh, right. So yeah.
Can I explain this part?
Yeah, you got it.
So Monarch in the Trio series, Monarch was just completely obliterated, ceased to exist. But basically, her existence was repurposed into a character called Potato. Much less powerful, has no memories of her existence as the Monarch, and all in all, just a cheerful person who likes building stuff and picking flowers. Basically, she got paired up with Haani. Each of the characters was paired up so that we can keep it interesting, not have anyone out on their own. As they started building, their villa, they built a house and got everything ready. Slowly over time, stuff started to resurface in Potato's memory, stuff of the Monarch, and Kir0 had to basically keep resetting the Monarch's memory so that she doesn't come back. Because if she were to come back, then she would remember all the awful things that happened in the third instance, and that would unleash very, very bad things for everyone on the server.
Okay, perfect.
So basically, Haani, this is how Kir0 finds out that Haani remembers, because he was talking about hey, why are you doing that to the Monarch? And they recognize that the other remembers, and they're like, okay, well, we can get through this together, basically, right? And essentially, Kir0 is 100% of the mindset that he has to keep wiping the Monarch's memory. And Haani's kind of on the fence about it, because he has come to know Potato as a friend, but also misses the Monarch because he was the closest to the Monarch in the third series. So he runs some quiet interference to kind of allow the Monarch to come back, but it just gets worse and worse over time to where Kira has to keep resetting, and it gets more and more upsetting to everyone involved. Kira, if you're back, please take over from here, because I do not remember all the details of what happened after that.
You don't need every detail. But basically, eventually it comes to a point where Haani's like, fuck it. I'm not going to sit here and let my friend keep getting wiped and in this like clearly painful process. And so he decides to take matters into his own hands. And he sends the monarch to the second layer, not really understanding the greater implications that may hold, right? So the monarch,
which is Kir0 or
the monarch, which is Potato, sorry.
Potato.
So he sends Potato to the second layer, the end, so that Kir0, can't get to her and wipe her again. This is obviously bad because, now it's like, well, obviously the council looking in, they're like, obviously this guy doesn't have control over the scenario, the instance. Kir0 doesn't have control. So, we're pulling this, putting everybody back, and we're gonna make an example out of Kir0, right? Which, yeah, just to go back and touch on what Haani said, it's not bad things for everyone. I mean, it's bad, but it's not like, like everybody's gonna be killed. But Kir0 would have been killed, as well as probably Potato, and everybody else would be sent back to their pods. Anyways, so yeah, they find out about this very quickly because they're actually, have someone monitoring the second layer.
I wonder who's monitoring the second layer.
I sure wonder. Anyways, so nobody was supposed to be going there yet, but with Potato going there, it was revealed that Kir0 didn't have control, so they decided to pull the plug. However, it went further than that. The manager, after which the manager is the one over the sixth layer. This is where he starts to come in. He's a big deal.
And the overall leader of the council.
Yeah, although not like
he has the most overall power.
Yeah, but he's not like an outright. Well, I mean, I guess yeah, he's not outright like you guys do this, blah blah blah.
He's not in charge or everything.
He's not in charge. Up until very recently, he's been very quiet in the background. But anyways, at this point, the manager is like, I'm not gonna let this go on any longer, and he decides that we're going to destroy the fourth layer, like we did to the sixth, because it holds too much power. He's got all the other layers under his thumb. The manager and the council, by extension, felt that they had all the other layers under their thumb, minus the fourth layer. So
the fourth layer just keeps getting all these powerful people that do not obey them.
Exactly. They're going to destroy it like they did with the sixth. Makerplier, who at this point is close friends with Kir0 and has been kind of like steadily watching this instance as it goes on and kind of like communicating with the council about it and whatnot. He hears about this and he's like, whoa, it's my lair. You can't just destroy it. And they're like, fuck you, buddy. We're going to do what we want. They get in the fight and Maker manages to kill one of the council members, severely damage another, until eventually getting defeated by the manager very easily. And so he escapes down to the fourth layer, and that's kind of the thing where it's like, oh shit.
Escape is an interesting word for it. He pretty much crash landed here.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an escape if he got away from death.
True.
But anyways, so he got away from them, barely hanging on to life. He drops the bad news, like, yeah, they're destroying the lair. So we begin to scramble. We got to figure out, one, how to get Potato out at the end.
Hello, Tom. Just a heads up, we are recording.
Yeah, and we're going over the lore of the server.
Yeah, so if you want to hang around, add what you can, or just pretty much just pay attention.
Yeah, just listen. Yeah. So we got to figure out how to get Potato out the end, and we got to figure out how to seal the lair off. Really one character. Sorry, Tom. One character kind of becomes important here in Joe, who is
he's a dimensional engineer.
Yeah, we'll learn more about him later. But basically, he's our resident mechanic, very good with machines, and so we send him to start figuring out a way to basically reverse engineer this bomb that we discovered into sealing off the layer instead of destroying it. So while he's on that, Kir0 to figuring out how to get to the end. I think Kir0 and Tom, right? Tom, you were there for that?
It was
but Joe got credit for it.
Yeah, Joe got.
And that's what's important.
Shut up. Anyways,
and I mean, if you think about it, you wouldn't have had the remnants of the portal to begin with if I didn't send Potato to the end in the first place. So it's really, I get the credit for that.
No, you don't. You get credit for making everything go to shit.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Go in
back on topic. They eventually find Potato in the end, and we come to find out that Potato has actually spent 12 years in the end, due to the way time works between the layers. So what was only a couple of months for us was 12 years for her, and in that time she formed a relationship with the primordial entity that controls life and creation and yada yada yada. Thur, Potato formed a relationship with her and became an avatar. Thur gave Potato a pretty nice version of her power, and in exchange, Potato works for Thur. Right. So we find that out, and then we manage to successfully seal off the lair. Right. After that, about a year passes. Everyone's back together. It's great. Various things happen in between. Kir0 goes missing for a while, and eventually it comes out that he's a child of the void somehow. And yeah, that kind of leads into now where we are now. So at this point, the most recent thing that happened is James got a letter from a distant leader of an empire in the Forth to attend a party or a meeting, I guess, a meeting of sorts. And we're still kind of reeling from the fact that, oh yeah, fuck, I didn't even talk about Ned this whole time.
So you remember how? Oh, we've also got, who is that? Salty. Hello, Salty.
Well, Salty, you were talking
Oh,
about
you haven't
lore.
talked about Salty either.
Fuck, dude. Fuck.
Also, I was the one to the design before Joe just.
We're not giving credit right now, Joe. Tom.
Okay, so good. How are you?
Okay, let me rewind. Give some important
Okay.
characters real quick.
No. Listen. Basically, okay. Nuppy was the one in charge before. Ned came along, and out of lore, Nuppy left because he wasn't interested in lore. In lore, Ned killed Nuppy to take all his power.
Ned also killed Alara. Why not?
Because Alara was going to stop him.
Yeah, that. Anyways, back to present. So Kir0 and Ned got into a fight in the end, and Ned was kind of like, Kir0 barely made it back to the Forth in time for them to seal it off, and Ned got locked out of the Forth. Well, eventually Ned made his way back in the Forth, which is a big deal because Ned, one of the council members, wants to kill everyone. But we eventually, talked some sense into him. I talked some sense into him, actually, me personally. To kind of semi be on our side, because overall he just wanted to protect the Forth lair from being destroyed, and to do that he was told to kill all of us. But he managed to talk the council into letting him do that instead of whatever. Anyways, so Ned comes back. It's a big problem because he's obviously a council member and he is gonna kill us or whatever. But yeah, we talked that over in the most recent stream, and now we've got to worry about one. If any of the councilmen kind of stumble upon this portal, they're gonna know that the Forth is back open. So we need to prepare to attack now. In order to do that, with not having recently been invited to this event, we're gonna try to leverage that to try to get people on our side who maybe normally wouldn't be, or maybe normally wouldn't have anything to do with this. We're just trying to get whatever advantage we can, because the manager, as we have come to find out, is a very, very powerful foe. He's been an avatar of Lux, the embodiment of death and destruction and all that good stuff. Yeah, he's an embodiment of that. The manager has been an avatar of Lux for a long time, basically since before the seventh layer was even created. Which
also, this is kind of obvious, but the longer you're an avatar, the more powerful you are as that avatar.
Yeah, but so he's a big deal. He's strong enough to fucking clear house with all of us. So we've all kind of been doing our own individual thing to get stronger. Kir0 got consumed by trying to gain power. Haani, he's kind of thinking of making a deal with the devil. Metaphorically. Haani is kind of on the edge, debating whether or not he should become an avatar of Lux to help combat the manager. And so that's where we're at now. Basically, where you would come in, Moth, personally, is you are one of these people from this distant land, someone who, so far has had nothing to do with the events of any of the instances, any of the exploits of the main group. You've just been casually living your life, and you're just there, right? All of a sudden, here comes these two people, new people. The organizer of this meeting is like, hey, these guys are some relatively new kingdom, Sandune, and we invited them at the show of good faith, and yeah, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna go with you personally about what they're gonna be like, but that's basically the background. So, Haani, did I miss anything?
Probably.
Yeah, it's okay. It's gonna be a fun one to edit, don't you think?
No. Basically, at this point, we are preparing for engagement with the manager. It's all hands on deck, and the next thing that's going to happen is we're preparing Samaj for his meeting with these people, and that's where you come in, Moth. So follow up on previous recap. Very much to no one's benefit yet, because it's not a video yet, but
So this little addendum.
Addendum. Okay.
Addendum.
A dum dum?
Whatever.
No,
This
that's
is-
no, it's not a dum dum.
The only dum is
Oh,
617. Link in bio.
you're right.
Anyways. it comes
I'm
out.
you know I'm gonna be putting chapters on this, so this one's gonna be called a dum dum.
Yeah, that works. So, real quick, we're recording this next day
Yes.
because I wanted to go over
Because Kira
how
forgot.
the layers. Shut up. I wanted to go over how the layers themselves were created by Thur and Lux. So we touched on them. Obviously, Lux is the creation and life deity
No,
thing.
no, Lux is not the life and creation thing.
Fuck, you are so right. I'm out of it, man.
Come
okay.
on, Professor
Lux is a
Kiro.
death one. Okay, hold on.
Alright,
We're gonna start over.
I want to rename you real quick.
We're starting over. Shush. Okay.
All right, there we go.
So-
Go on, Professor Kiro.
Yes. So, we went over the two primordial entities, Lux and Thur.
Yes.
Thur and Lux. Thur, the creation and life and whatnot person, and Lux, the opposite, death and destruction and decay, that person. Well,
Yes.
all this to say, obviously, the void as well is one kind of, yes, it's a layer, but at the same time, it's a like a living thing. So the void was alone in the universe, right? There was nothing except the void, only the first layer.
And then Professor Kiro said, "Let there be light."
And then the void said, let there be two twins, the twins being Lux and Thur.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these twins, being of opposite natures, both taking on an aspect of the father or mother, they kind of naturally started to oppose each other. Thur wanted to create and bring more and more into this universe until it was full to the brim with everything. Lux, one of the opposite, Lux enjoyed the peace and quiet of the simple world. So yeah, Lux wanted there to be nothing. So obviously this naturally creates a divide between the siblings, and after some time of this kind of building up and them both kind of going at each other's necks over centuries and millennium and yada yada, eventually it comes to a boiling point. At this point, there have been some layers that have been created independently of each other. They're created the fifth layer, Lux, to kind of like have an antithesis to that, created the third layer, which, if you remember, keeping up with your notes, that is the fifth layer being the Aether, third layer being the Nether, right? Heaven and Hell.
Yes.
Cool. Next, Thur created the fourth layer, a very different fourth layer to what it is now. What ended up happening, actually, and what ended up kicking off the, war, to say, so to speak, was Thur created this layer with, no death, no hardships, no struggles, a perfect utopia. And Lux went in and ruined that by introducing death to the world and introducing decay to the world and kind of bringing in some of that influence of death and destruction and kind of gave that to the people of that layer. Obviously, Thur wasn't a big fan of this, which, get out of here.
He can stay. He can give very good commentary.
Who's here?
It's Damberg.
Commentary.
Who's that?
Damberg.
Yeah, the best commentary.
So yeah, obviously, Thur was not a big fan of this, and this was actually the big event that kind of kicked off their huge, all-encompassing war. Through their fighting, a couple more layers were created. The second layer was kind of an offshoot of Lux being a desolate land with not much life there, but a little bit kind of shining through the crack. The sixth layer, kind of created as a beacon of all that Thur stands for. That's it. That's all the layers that were created. But so basic recap: second and third were kind of created as offshoots of Lux. Fifth and sixth created as offshoots of Thur, and the fourth was kind of the middle ground between the two.
No man's land.
Created by Thur, influenced by Lux. Right. So
Makes sense.
that's it. Later on, the people who kind of inhabited these different lands came together and were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we didn't have to constantly travel between places and could have a central place that didn't hold any superiority over any other, where we could meet and make decisions for the good of everyone. And they were like, yeah, that's a cool idea, but I mean, how do you do that? And through that effort, the
Haven.
seventh layer was born. I'm getting there. Through that effort, the seventh layer was born in concept. It took a long time to develop it with a lot of brilliant minds, some of which who are no longer with us. Rest in peace, Joseph.
He's
And-
still alive, just his mind isn't.
Yeah, his mind is. So, yeah, that's how the seventh layer was created, and it was given the name the Haven. So, from there, people prospered for a long time. People were content, they were happy. Everybody kind of felt they had their place in society, except some people weren't quite satisfied. Those people went on to create the eighth layer. They disguised it as a further place where they could, I don't know how they spun it, because it happened too long ago for me to know. Yeah.
Oh, what an excuse! Wow.
What an excuse. But yeah, so it was
Go ask
created.
Joe about it.
Joe was dead at this point.
Yeah.
Anyways, so at this point, you know, it was kind of twisted beyond the original purpose, and they came to be known as the Sovereign. And we got into the Sovereign's whole deal, you know, ruling the world with an iron fist, and yada yada. Addendum complete.
Yay. Go Addendum.
Ooh, make sure you drop a like on this video.
They already dropped a
If
like.
you like
in the
this little
video.
recap, give us a thumbs up, and we'll give you character recaps moving forward.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun.
That would be fun, yeah. But what else? We'll have to wait till the end of this series for that.
Why?
Go ahead and drop a comment down below about your favorite moment in the recap. And
My favorite moment was when Kir0 called Samaj a dum dum.
I like that moment.
Anyway, I'll see you gentlemen
Join us
in
the next
the
one where we
server
play.
shortly.
Join us on the next one where we play GTFO probably. 'Cause
Probably.
Haani's obsessed.
Just a little bit.
Psh, wait, that's the intro.
No, whoops.
Goodbye.
I like that. Whoops.
Whoops.
Whoops.